Welcome to TPM Vid's Disney Beat, where we talk about all things Disney. If you're new to the channel and like what you see, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. You can also find us on all your favorite social media platforms. The Disneyland Resort is always changing. Attractions come and go and lands get reimagined, but if you know where to look, many pieces of Disney's defunct past are hidden in plain sight. From subtle Easter eggs to full-on abandoned effects, these details are scattered all around the resort. So sit back as we explore 7 hidden secrets and Easter eggs from defunct Disneyland history. Number 7. Did you know there's an abandoned wave machine in Paradise Bay at Disney California Adventure? Yeah, the bay wasn't always this calm and serene. When the park opened in 2001, riders on California Screamin' were treated to a thrilling launch and a wave effect.
Launch in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1!
Every time the train launched, a synchronized wave would crash against the rocks, making it feel like you were speeding along the edge of the Pacific Ocean. If you're looking at the side of the launch today, directly across, you can still see the wave mechanism under the wooden paneling. When the bay is drained, it offers a much better look at the mechanisms. Disney worked with Edinburgh Designs, who built a multi-paddle wave machine made up of 30 individual paddles. The system was similar to this one here, where each paddle would move at different intervals, agitating the water and creating these smaller waves. It was meant to bring the seaside boardwalk theme of Paradise Pier to life, which it did, when it actually worked. Unfortunately, not long after opening, the wave mechanism was plagued with maintenance issues. There were times where the waves worked in the morning, then by mid-afternoon, they were shut off, and they'd stay off sometimes for weeks. The last time anyone saw the waves in action seems to be around late 2008. Then once Disney began overhauling Paradise Bay for World of Color, the waves never crashed again. So next time you're on the Incredicoaster and are just about to take launch, if you look to your right, you'll get a peek at an abandoned piece of Disney history. Number 6. As you walk through Adventureland, many trees fill this lush oasis. There are many different types, but hidden among all the greenery by the Jungle Cruise is one very prominent tree that dates back to way before Disneyland was even built. Towering over the land, you may have noticed the Canary Island date palm. It's the tallest palm tree in Adventureland, and it holds almost 130 years of history. When Walt Disney purchased the 160 acres of land in Anaheim, 10 of those acres were owned by the Dominguez family. When you're walking down Main Street, you can see the name Ron Dominguez on one of the market house windows. Ron used to actually live on those 10 acres of land. He began working at Disneyland when it first opened in 1955, and then in 1990, he went on to become the vice president of Walt Disney Attractions. Well, in 1896, the Canary Island palm tree was a wedding gift given to Ron's grandparents. They originally owned the land. During the construction of Disneyland, the Dominguez family home was relocated behind Main Street and used as a construction office. As crews cleared hundreds of trees around the home, the Dominguez family asked Walt to save the palm tree since it held a lot of sentimental value. Walt Disney obviously kept his promise and relocated it to the entrance of the Jungle Cruise. When building the new queue in the mid-90s, they built right around the palm tree to make sure they didn't ruin any history, because at almost 130 years old, it's one of the oldest living trees at the park. Now, if you're curious about which tree is actually the oldest, well, it can be found on the Storybook Land canal boats. Around Geppetto's Village, there's this little tree here, which is a 2-foot-tall Mugo pine tree, and that is the oldest tree at the park. Horticulturalists at Disneyland believe it's over 150 years old. That's more than double the age of Disneyland itself. Number 5. Back in November of 2024, Lewis's Critter Club opened its doors, but did you know that Imagineers took some inspiration for the shop from the Country Bear Jamboree? So Lewis's Critter Club is set up as a club where all the critters from Tiana's Bayou Adventure perform for Mama Odie. She has her seat set up in front of the stage, and all around the perimeter of the shop, you can find the critters' instruments. They're all the same instruments you'll see them play on the ride, so it's actually really cool to get this up-close look. A lot of detail went into every single instrument. Now, the critters aren't performing just yet, but thankfully, they have easy access to all their instruments right through their dressing room doors. Each critter has a unique door fit to size, from Lewis the alligator to smaller critters like Rufus the turtle and Apollo the raccoon. The dressing rooms add a nice touch, but this is the design detail taken from the Country Bear Jamboree. When the attraction opened in 1972, the Country Bear Jamboree was the anchor attraction in what was originally Bear Country, which then turned into Critter Country and now is Bayou Country. When you walked into the Country Bear Playhouse, the waiting area was decorated with pictures and props, but along the walls were dressing room doors for each of the bear characters. Everyone from Henry to Shaker, Big Al, Ernest, Teddy Beara, and the Sunset Bonnet Trio all had their own doors fit to size. Inside Lewis's Critter Club, one door that pays tribute to a specific door at the Country Bear Playhouse is this one to the right of the cash desk. You can see there are 3 doors in one, for Claude, Bernadette, and the smallest one for Sebastian, the little black bear. Then over at the Country Bear Playhouse, there used to be a door for the 5-bear rug that also had 3 doors in one, with the smallest door being for little Oscar. The Country Bear Jamboree closed in 2001, and even though the bears are long gone, it's great seeing tributes to these iconic bears in the land. And speaking of Country Bear tributes, I'm sure many of you already know this, but there's another one in the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Just after the Heffalumps and Woozles scene, if you turn around, you'll spot the busts of Buff, Max, and Melvin. These aren't the animatronics from the attraction itself, but instead were static busts from the mile-long bar, which used to be where Pooh Corner is today. Number 4. Mickey's Toontown has seen quite a few changes over the years, but one attraction that's remained practically unchanged is Mickey's House. It's a pretty iconic landmark in Toontown. As you step inside the Mouse's house, it's packed with all kinds of charming details, bringing Mickey's world right to life. There is a lot in here to explore, and although this doesn't directly relate to defunct Disneyland history, there's one Easter egg in here that most guests completely overlook. In the living room just behind the chair, there is a display case. If you take a look inside, the most noticeable things are a scroll that says Florida and a passport. Let's look at the passport first. Now, it wouldn't surprise you to find out that Mickey is quite the world traveler. The stamps you see on his passport actually represent the parks he's opened around the world. Well, only some of them. The stamp in the upper left has the opening date of Walt Disney World in Florida from 1971. Then to the right, the stamp is a little faded, but it has the opening date for Tokyo Disneyland. You can faintly see 83, which is the year the resort opened. Then finally at the bottom left is the opening of Euro Disneyland in 1992, which then went on to become Disneyland Paris. Since Toontown opened in 1993, these were the only resorts around at the time, since Hong Kong and Shanghai opened later on. Now, for the 70th anniversary, anyone can get their hands on their very own key to Disneyland, but the real key to Disneyland lives right here in this display case. Mickey was actually given a key to each of the Disney resorts around the world. This one is for Disneyland here in Anaheim. Next to that is the key for Walt Disney World in Florida. Above is the key for Tokyo Disneyland next to a Japanese fan. And then to the left is the key to Disneyland Paris, where Mickey also brought back his own statue of the Eiffel Tower. So next time you're in Mickey's house, explore every single corner because you never know what you'll find. Number 3. When Disney California Adventure opened in 2001, the Hollywood Pictures backlot was home to Muppet Vision 3D. The entire outdoor queue was full of a bunch of props and theming that brought the Muppet humor right to life. It wasn't anything fancy, but it set up the attraction really well. Now, creating faces on inanimate objects is always one thing that seems to come up with the Muppets. We saw a bunch of this at Hollywood Studios in the extended queue. Now, a lot of you probably remember the marquee looking like this, but when the attraction first opened in 2001, this is how it originally looked. The show building was a bit more industrial, and you can see faces were created on many of the pipes and mechanical equipment. Well, in 2008, Disney moved the marquee over to the right, and in doing so, all that whimsical Muppet theming on the exterior was erased. The faces were removed, and everything was painted beige. Well, fast forward more than 15 years to today, where the exterior is still beige, but remnants of those Muppet faces can still be found on the pipes. This one has a pair of glasses over the pipe as a nose, with another pair of glasses on the other end, and then this steam whistle-looking object still has its mouth and hat. It's one of those subtle details that most guests completely overlook, but once you notice it, you cannot unsee it. The Muppets at DCA may be long gone, but it's fun knowing little pieces of their personality are still hiding in plain sight. Number 2. When riding the Matterhorn, it's easy to be distracted by the abominable snowman or the pain in your back. But next time you're riding, take a closer look at the Wreckage scene. It was introduced during the ride's major refurbishment in 2015. And although you do zoom by pretty quick, the Wreckage is filled with a lot of Disney history. The most obvious things you'll probably notice are old Matterhorn ride vehicles. These were 2 real bobsleds Imagineers picked out of storage from the previous version of the vehicles. They tore them apart and placed them right in the Wreckage. But then there's some other stuff that's not as obvious. At the back, wedged into the snow, you can find some Skyway buckets that used to make their way right through the Matterhorn. Or that's what people think. In 1956, Disney opened the Skyway, which took guests on a scenic tour between Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. When deciding to add the Matterhorn in 1959, they had to build around the existing Skyway supports, which created this awesome moment of being able to ride right through the Matterhorn. During its 38-year run, the Skyway gave riders some awesome scenic views of the park in 2 different bucket designs. The circular 2-seater bucket made its debut with the ride in 1956. Then in 1965, they introduced the rectangular 4-seater bucket, which stayed with the attraction until it closed in 1994. Upon the Skyway's closure, the Matterhorn underwent a fairly massive refurbishment, filling in most of the Skyway holes. 1994 was the very last time a Skyway bucket went through the mountain until Imagineers added the Wreckage scene in 2015. But here's the kicker. These Skyway buckets are actually just replicas. According to former Imagineer Brendan Cleela, he couldn't bear destroying the original Skyway buckets stored in the Disney archives. So instead, they recreated the Skyway buckets to crush and destroy for the scene. They even numbered the blue rectangular bucket as 59 to pay tribute to the Matterhorn's opening year. So although these Skyway buckets never actually traveled between Fantasyland and Tomorrowland, they're built just like the originals and act as the perfect tribute to a now defunct Disneyland ride. Number 1. We all know that Tiana's Bayou Adventure replaced Splash Mountain. The reimagined ride opened in November of 2024, but before we hop in the logs and follow Tiana and Louis down the bayou, you can find some tributes to Splash Mountain right here in the queue. Now, Splash Mountain followed the adventures of Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Brer Bear. They were the stars of the ride. Well, as you enter the main office of Tiana's Foods, on the left towards the single rider line, you'll see Tiana's desk and office space. Like anyone's office, it's filled with tons of trinkets and supplies. Well, on the bookcase to the left of the desk, you'll notice that the first shelf has 3 animal figurines. There's a bear attached to a ceramic pot, a fox, and a rabbit, which pays tribute to the 3 main Brer characters from Splash Mountain. Now there's also a riverboat on Tiana's desk, which likely has a double meaning. While riverboats make a brief appearance in Princess and the Frog, its placement in this scene along with the fox, bear, and rabbit is no coincidence. It's definitely a tribute to the Zippity Lady in the finale of Splash Mountain. Now, the single rider line isn't the only place in the queue where you can find tributes to the Brer characters. On the right-hand side, towards Lightning Lane and Regular Standby, you'll immediately see a massive fireplace mantle which has another trio of figurines. Again, there's a fox, a bear, and a rabbit. Then once you enter the bayou on the ride, one of the first things you see are a group of fireflies swarming a tree stump. If you think this tree stump looks familiar, you're not wrong because it's shaped like Chickapin Hill, just flipped. Again, nothing Imagineering does is just coincidence, and it's another hidden tribute to the now defunct Splash Mountain. So what's your favorite hidden secret at Disneyland? I'd love to know. Leave a comment down below to start a conversation, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video.